Hello, everyone, and welcome to our very first Tech Tuesday. It's kind of fun. And I'm going to introduce you with Lynette, and I think Nitsa is here. Hello. We were just kind of putting some fine tuning things up together. And we just really want to hit on, especially like a little bit with like the websites, maybe not the website, the framework, but all the back end stuff, like the things that we really need. Get those foundations so when it's really time for you to really develop your website or to take it to the next level, you're not going to be short or shy. So, Lynette, thank you so much for being here. And I'm so glad that you're a part of this. Okay, not a problem. We're all trying to do everything at the same time. So, if
Yeah.
anything, Lynette, you mentioned we were just talking a little bit about the importance of a domain name. Can you kind of help us out with that?
Okay. So a domain name is like an address on the internet to your house, right? So if we can think about in the terms of like a mailing address, wherever you live with, your postal code and so forth, that is what a domain name would be. And this is where your information of your services would be housed, if that makes sense. And so to get a domain name, you can either go through Namecheap or you can go to Cloudflare. Those are more on the budget end as opposed to GoDaddy. I personally don't like GoDaddy. um, I don't like their interface. I don't like their prices. I think it's 20 at the time of the recording. I think you can get a domain name really cheap from GoDaddy on the first year, but I think the renewal it goes up to be like 24 or $26, and then you still got to pay like internet fees. I think it's called ICANN fees, and that's everybody has to pay that. But on top of the $26, and then there's more tax, so it's like okay. Um, but if you go with Namecheap or if you go with Cloudflare, the I think you can get a domain name for like the first year maybe for like $1 or two, and then the second year when they start renewing, it might be $12. So that's a little bit an easier pill to swallow. I mean, $12 and $24, but if you have like 60 domain names, that's a fair amount of money. Um, it's okay to have multiple domain names, but kind of stick with one. You kind of want to stay within, one and just kind of build that up. When you create a domain name, don't think of anything too cutesy. Don't be like, oh, I don't know. This is my fantastic tutoring website. You want it to be memorable, but you also want it to be succinct. So when I started off, I was thinking of learningwithlynette.com. So I have learningwithlynette.com. There's a lot of learning, and I started realizing. So there's like learn with so and so, learn with Mr., learn with Miss, and I was like, that's a lot of learning. But you can even have it as your first and last name if you're okay with that. I actually have my own domain name with my first and last name, and you do too,
And
Audrey.
I do too. Well, with
Yeah.
your encouragement, you were like, Audrey, you need to have one. Because when I think about it, as I'm expanding, because we all
Yeah.
know right now we're tutors, but eventually we're going to want to go onto multiple streams.
Right.
And yes, I do have a domain name with ACG Math Tutoring. Definitely have that. My other one is, which I just got, is audreycodner.com.
Hmm.
Because now, if I want to venture into anything, it's all going to be geared to my name. So it's almost like an umbrella, if you think about it. And then you have so many things that can be added on because you're going to be an author. You're going to be, maybe a celebrity, as some of you guys are. And, you're tutoring and your extravaganza, and then you're going to blow up. But remember, everything is going to fall underneath one umbrella. And it will be nice if you just have it as your name. And I know it's kind of tough because some people have like a common name, like
Hmm.
say Tara Cook or John Smith. Like there's a lot of John Smiths. So it's kind of like something like that. You might have to think a little variation or in addition to your name.
Yeah. So on to add to that, you could do like that John Smith or this Tara Cook or adding what do you call them, prepositions?
Mm-hmm.
right? They're called
Mm-hmm.
prepositions.
That's right.
I don't know English.
I know, right? Math person.
But so yeah, you can add in prepositions, or you could even like put in like classroom or class or yeah, yeah. So like I know there's this one music teacher, and she says, so and so class music class, so you can add to it, and that's still memorable. It's not too long. It was three names. Don't be like super long, but don't be too cutesy, right? So like for me, I teach abacus, so I have the abacus method. There's a couple of things I also have, which I'm still building out. And, but if you are a math tutor, you could say, you know, Audrey's math class, or you could say, tutoring. Well, you could say tutoring with Lynette, or you could say math tutoring with, you could do that, like very different variations. But yeah, but again, don't be too cutesy, but
Right.
be professional about it.
And it also helps because I know I use Namecheap, and I mean I like the pricing of it, and I can definitely, because there was a couple of times I was having some issues with my hosting and all that, and the customer service, unbelievable. Doesn't
Yeah,
even matter what time of day, night,
yeah,
whatever. I was on customer service one time for 3 hours.
yeah.
Amazing. So, but they also have that option where you can actually look up do a domain search to see what's going to be available. And I
Mhm.
noticed with some of the domains is like the difference between .com, .org,
Oh,
.net. And sometimes I feel like, okay, which is the one that we really should go for? What happens if a name that we like already has a .com? Like, what will be the next best, or should we just say, you know what, think of something new? Like, what do you think?
my honest opinion, stay with a .com because that's what everybody knows. We used to try, like in the early 2010 or something, there was like, oh, you could do a .org, and you could do not .org, you could do a .net, you could do a .io. Um, but be careful with all of those, just because that's not common in every day. So if your domain name is taken, I would do the preposition. I would add in an extra, like a word in the front, a word in the end, or a word in the middle, or of some sort. So that's my 2 cents. We are starting to get like .app, but that's because they're applications, so it kind of makes sense. .io, it's still a software based um, company, so be careful with all the other ones. Unless you're like in Canada, it's a .ca, but then your clientele will be Canadians. So it depends on where you are in the world and um, who you want your clientele to be, who your ICA, ideal client, ideal candidate, advocate, something
Oh,
like that.
a deal client avatar.
Avatar, there we
So,
go.
mhm.
So it depends on where you want to be. So for me, I'm in California. I want my people to be in California, in America. I'm going to do a .com. But if you're in the UK and you want the people to be in UK, then you stick with .co.uk. So it depends on where you want your clientele to be. Majority of the people know .com, but I think that's only in America. Like I think Canadians can do .com. I think it's still common in Canada to do .com, but then they're going to be resident in the people would be Americans. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
That
Yeah.
makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
have seen, if I tried to write, like, say, someone in the UK, I always see like .uk on some of their publications. I was like, oh, so after you just
Yeah.
said that, that totally makes sense now. But like
Yeah.
for us, I think it would be best, even like in Puerto Rico, because guess what? You're still in the US as well.
Yeah.
You can still
Yeah.
like try to shoot for that .com. So I think like some people will probably usually have like, which one should I use? Well, this one's cheaper. Of course it's cheaper, but is it
Yeah.
really going to help you with your search? All right.
Right. Right.
So we also had a very interesting incident. I know, and you told me, you clarified it, that earlier Facebook just went down for, I want to say, a couple hours. I mean, I was like, I
Yep.
gotta post, I gotta tell people where to go and stuff. And it
Yep.
completely went down. And of course, I'm like, okay. But luckily, I have everyone's email. So if
Yep.
anything was about to go awry, I was going to send, because I was like, all right, I still got Wi-Fi. All right, so there's nothing wrong with my internet, but I still had everyone's email, so I was able to send. And I was just about to send, and I was like, you know what? Let me try one more time. And then Facebook jumped back on, and I was like, okay, so now I can breathe. But I had the emails as my backup. So can
Hmm.
we kind of talk a little bit more about that, the importance of email, but also like, what are those service providers?
So they email. We don't think that it's important, but it is very important to collect email addresses of all your clients and all the people that are thinking about being part of your service. Some of the service providers you can use could be Mailchimp. I use Mailchimp with my brick and mortar. A few people use ConvertKit. The one thing about ConvertKit is that if you reach like 1,000 people or 100,000 people or something, you're gonna have to start paying a pretty penny. I believe. Oh, and then there's a Flowdesk. I believe they all have a free package for each of them. So I know MailChimp has a free package because I haven't yet paid for it and I've been with them for 20 years. But anyways, ConvertKit and Flowdesk, I believe they have a free package that depending on how many people you have on your list is when you're going to start paying. So that's kind of beneficial to be able to save some money and even though you're collecting emails. And they're also very they're they're also what? They're also they help with deliverability and they also help to make sure that you are of top of mind. There's a few things that the reason why you want to do a service provider is because Gmail and Yahoo just brought down the hammer on if you're sending out an email campaign, which just means you're going to be sending out like a list of people, and they happen to be on Google or Yahoo. If your reply email address is a gmail.com, they will
Mm-hmm.
not send it. It will go straight to spam or they'll even block your email. So it's prudent to have a domain name email address. What does that mean? It means my domain name is Learning with Lynette. So when I send out an email, it's hello@learningwithlynette.com. Learningwithlynette.com is what I send out to my email list. So, the email service providers, Mailchimp, ConvertKit, Flowdesk. There's HubSpot, but I didn't like HubSpot so much. They will help deliver your emails properly to your email list. Does
And
that make
that's
sense?
what, yeah, it totally makes
Okay.
sense, because I'm just typing them in just so you guys can see inside the chat. Um, you know, it sounds like, oh my gosh, I have so much stuff I have to get. And I'm like, but when you have, these are the essentials. It's
Yeah.
like, this is a one time, take your time.
Yep.
Basically, most of them you're going to be paying, especially for the domain name, annually. So it's a
Yeah.
one time fee, especially when you're first starting out. We're talking like around $5 or less, as long as you're not going too crazy with the names.
Yep.
And then as you build up and as you get clients, learning your finances, let's try to put some of that money aside so you can say, all right, well, next year is going to turn up to like $14 or maybe
Yep.
$15. But I haven't seen anyone that's above 20, especially on Namecheap, which is great.
Right.
Um, but it is good to have those domain names, because especially if you start expanding, and I think some people were saying that, oh, I want to talk to some of the schools.
Hmm.
And if you're coming in with a at gmail.com, they know you're starting up, which is fine, but they're going to be a little like cautious, or they might
Yeah.
not even reply because, oh, this person is a Gmail. So who do we know? Is she or is he
Hmm.
really a business? And you're just like, yeah, I'll check, I'm right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because you have it as like, what Lynette has, like hello at learningwithlynette.com, it's like, okay, you took the time to pay for your email address. You know, you're trying to get it secured, obviously.
Right.
So that's that extra kind of, I want to say, that extra tightness in the hug to say, yes, everything is okay. We're
Yeah.
here. We got you. So, all right, we can introduce our kids to you because of that.
Yeah. Um, I wouldn't sweat too much on a domain name. I would just pick one, and you can always buy a new one if you finally figured out that this is what you want to go. So like for example, I have learning with Lynette. There's a lot of learning whatever, and I'm like I'm in like the second year, the first full year coming through, and I started to really understand what I'm trying to do and what service I'm trying to provide. I decided to go like with Abacus method, and I bought it, and then now it's mine. But you can always pivot your domain name if you don't like what it is for right now. You could always pivot. Don't stick too long on a domain name. Don't be like 2 3 months down the road, I'm like, I'm still deciding. Choose one and move forward. Choose one service provider and move forward. If you don't like it, you can always change to a new service provider. We're all about pivoting, and we're all about making sure you're as flexible as possible, because just like learning, we're learning a business, right? We're not what it like the one thing that I was coming across, like teachers teach, right? When you teach, let's say you're working on a problem or you're working an essay, do you say, give me your final product right now? It's like, no, you give me a draft, you go forward, and you reiterate. And it's the same thing with tech. You try one thing, you don't like it, you move on to the next till you figure out what you feel like and what you're comfortable with and what you understand. But it's prudent that you understand the tech behind your business, because people can do it for you, but when something happens, you're not going to be able to know how to navigate, or you're not going to be able to tell the person that's going to help you, right? You need to know how to navigate another person, just like teaching, right? If I didn't know how to add or whatever, if I don't know Abacus, how am I supposed to teach the next person to do what I need them to do? Does that make sense?
Perfect sense. And I'm going to be the bearer, well, not really the bearer of bad news, but I'm going to put a little salt in the wound right now. Because I know a friend of mine, she was just starting tutoring, and she's like, oh, I'm so excited. I'm doing tutoring. I'm like, okay, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I got it. Everything. I got everything. I got a guy, and he's doing everything for me. And of course, my
Yeah.
red flag went whoop right up. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, let me know what's going on. She's like, oh, I'll let you know how it's going. A month later, I get a panic phone call. All of a sudden, I was like, okay, I'm tutoring. I'll call you later. And I was like, what's wrong? And she's like, he blocked me out of everything. And I'm like,
Yep.
your
Mm-hmm.
husband? And she's like, no, no, no. No, he's still here. And I'm like, oh, okay. She's like, no, the guy that was doing my
Yeah.
website, that was doing my email list, like he has everything. And then
Mm-hmm.
he went ahead to say, if you want your information, you're going to have to pay me. So he kept all her stuff for ransom. And she
Yep.
didn't have a whole lot, but I was just like, just the mere fact that you put all your trust into someone else to
Yep.
basically run your business. And
Mm-hmm.
just like with when we had Phyllis come in here with the bookkeeping,
Mm.
my whole thing is she even said, like, you really need to know what goes in and what's coming out from your business. You can't just let me just hire an accountant and let them do it because I don't want to do it. Oh my God, that's too much.
Right.
Well, guess what? You're going to have to put your big broke panties on, and you're going to have to learn some of these things and really just take it into small doses. And that's the
Yep.
main reason why we have this membership and we have like all these guest speakers and stuff so they can speak to you so you can get a little empowered, learn one thing
Mm-hmm.
at a time. So you can't trust anybody. You can't like really even family members. You can't trust them because you don't know what their hardship is, and all of a sudden next thing you
Yeah.
know you're like, "Wait, I'm missing $200. Like what happened?" Know what's going on with your business and just be able to learn some of the tech, right?
It gets to a point where it's not like you don't trust, it's you keep an eye on it. Like
Mm.
having like, like tutoring, right? You keep an eye on how your student is going, how they're doing, and so forth. You don't talk to the teacher on the other end, but you trust them enough that that the students need to do and learn what they need to do. It's kind of the same thing with business. Like, you can trust a VA, but you need to keep an eye, you need to keep an ear out on what's going on. So when does something does go, you can be like, okay, let me try to regroup and move forward in the next one. So
Mhm.
I don't want to be like, the sky's falling and everybody's out to get me, but it's good to know just how to maneuver around is where I would be.
True.
So
I,
so
I
the
like that so
so,
much better.
so like, with this, right? One thing is you have your domain name. Choose one. You can either go with Namecheap, you go with Cloudflare, whichever. You want to go to GoDaddy, you could go with GoDaddy, but know that if you push comes to shove, something happens with GoDaddy, you're gonna have to funnel your way through Namecheap. And I don't know if Cloudflare's customer services. I don't have it with Cloudflare. I have it with Namecheap, and there was a couple of times I was transferring from GoDaddy to Namecheap, and there was a problem, and the Namecheap was very helpful. So,
Extremely helpful.
so
So
then,
now, go ahead.
mhm.
Go
No, I
ahead.
was just gonna say. So then the next thing would be, once you figure out your domain name, just pick any email service provider. Any. It doesn't matter, right? And then from there, the next one would be to create a lead magnet.
Yes, and that's what I was about to go into because all these service providers they have what's called like landing pages. So I know a lot of
Right.
people are like, "Well, I need a website. I need a website. My website's got to be perfect." And some of you guys already started a website, which is perfectly fine. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes like you just need something to for people to come. All right, now they're interested in you. You've put in content, you've put posts. Now they want to come and they want to get some of your service. So instead of like, hey, going to my Facebook page or hey, going into
Yeah.
here because we're trying to collect emails. Now, you Facebook does not learn from my mistake. Facebook does not collect emails. So when I first started my Facebook group, from the classroom to online tutoring, I'm thinking like the first few people when they sign up, they're giving me their emails and I'm like, okay, well, Facebook, where can I find it? And you can't find it because Facebook does not store the emails. So when someone does share their email, what I do is I open up an Excel sheet and I basically copy and paste it each and every time. And there's probably an easier way. But at the time when I set this up, I was like, okay, this is what I understand. So, but I had to learn that
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't hold emails. So now we got to think of, all right, we got people that are interested, but we might want to draw more people. And we're not talking about setting up an ad. We're not talking about that, buying
Mm-hmm.
ads and all this stuff. We're talking about giving like a small piece of yourself, like a freebie. and
Mm-hmm.
and that freebie can be anything. It could be, maybe it's a video that you already done, maybe it's a
Mm-hmm.
PDF, maybe it's an activity that you've done in the past that you notice that some people are talking about. Oh, I struggle, especially order of operations for older kids. Yes, fun truth. I had one person that did two truths and a lie for like elementary school kids, and she did like a whole series and she gave it free to a parent group of hers. And that helped to attract a lot of the parents. It's like, oh my gosh, my kid loved this. Do you have more of it? Do you have all this stuff? And before you know it, she's getting their emails because she had like a landing page and she was able to get their emails and everything and be able to contact them later about tutoring services.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're kind of talking about how to attract them. Yes, we got the platform. Yes, we're going to eventually talk about the email, but let's talk a little bit about what is that lead magnet to bring people in. What do you think on that?
So a
5%.
lead magnet is a business term that nobody really knows, and another business term would be opt-in. And so what they're doing is they're opting in to be on their email list. They're giving the client is giving permission to take their email so you can email to them. A lead magnet is to like a magnet. You want to draw them into your world. So you want to try to provide a PDF or a video, or you don't even need to have necessarily created it. You could have curated it, because a lot of the parents, they don't buy for creation, they buy for curation. So you can have like a top 10 list of, these are the YouTube videos that I really recommend, blah, 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 blah. They may not be yours, but they could be curated from somewhere. Obviously, you got to make sure that the YouTube videos are still active, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
so if creating something of your own is a little bit daunting, you could curate, right? Curate a top 10 list of, I don't know, study habits, right?
Yeah.
A top 10 list of something. So just a list of just, and even like a one pager PDF would just be suffice, because they like a checklist, right? That's not something you just type up a little checklist. Like these are like a process of what a process of, how to do math, right? You need to read the question, you need to understand what it, and bring it down. And so the lead magnet, obviously, not obviously, the lead magnet is the start. And then as you get more understanding of who your people are, who you want to deal with, you can create a new email lead magnet. You can always expand on it. Maybe instead of this year it's one page, maybe next year it'll be 3 pages, or a one page with a video. You can add to it as your library of expertise is starting to grow. So don't be scared of creating something, because everybody likes gifts, right?
Yeah.
Like T-Mobile gives out 14 days of, internet access, and then if you like them, then you stay with them, right? We all like gifts, and that's the point of having a lead magnet. You could call it I call it a gift, you know. And then I provide other gifts of worksheets for my people that are in my world, right? You could create a worksheet. Even that, I mean, even if you are very talented and creative and you create your own worksheets for, like, say, one student, you can duplicate that and give it out as a lead magnet. So there's many things you could do to provide a service to them, and show them how much you care.
Yep. I mean, that's
So
perfect. Well said with that, because you want to keep it simple. It's
yeah,
not like, and I think a lot of people are feeling, I know when I initially started, I'm like, I don't want to just give everything away. I feel like I'm just giving so much away. But here's my thing, you're going to get more in return. That's what you're thinking. So you're just giving a
yeah,
small sample of yourself, even if it's like quick tips, like how to solve, I don't know, quadratic equations, or
yeah.
how to organize your notebook, like how
Oh
to
yeah,
take down notes,
yeah.
just something small and simple as that. And you can create it on Canva, make it all cutesy if you want. And then you just get a link, and whatever your landing page is, you can attach that link. And all they have to do is make sure they fill out their name and email. I like the name and email because I like to know who I'm talking
Yes.
to.
Hmm.
And then once they fill that out, the next page will be the thank you page, and you can either have it automatically sent to their email, or there's a link that they can click on, whatever, in order for them to get it. What's your suggestion? Because
I would
sometimes
s-
it's,
I would suggest you email them the download file. Like you have it somewhere, like you could put it on Google Drive or wherever, right? Like it sits there, but you send them the link to it, because if you put the link on your thank you page, they can they
just
don't
take
have
it
the
from you.
habit. Yeah, they can just, leave and stuff. They won't have the habit of seeing your email, because what we also want to do is we also want to teach them that you're going to be in their email box. So a lot of the practice now is, I will send you an email link. I will email you the link to download from my product. or my lead magnet, my little gift for
Right.
you. And that's what I
Hmm.
would do, just because you don't want people to ghost you. You don't want to have like random emails. Like a lot of emails will bounce. What's the point of having an email that bounces if, you're collecting, right? So like I actually had a few like they this person, I'm assuming it was one person, but they put in like junk email. I mean, then they got their email, then they unsubscribed. I was like, but at least they went through that. They had to go through that extra effort, right? So you
Right.
kind of wanted to, put some uh, gates, like a
Hmm.
gatekeeper. You want to put like a
Hmm.
gatekeeper just to make sure you get, because the other thing is with the email service providers, we are paying for that. So as you collect, if you get 500 junk emails and then you push over to like say 510, you're paying, they will actually, the email service provider will push you to the paying package, and that's not what you want. You want to make sure that
Oh.
your email list is clean and and they're to real people.
That's something that definitely needs to be said because we get so excited that, oh, look at my email list and it's
Yeah,
growing. And you're like, oh, and I got like 300 people. And then you're like
yeah,
100 or 250 of them are junk
yeah,
or they're spam or
yeah.
they're just made up. So, yeah, that's definitely, and it's come like, how can you tell that the email is going to be clean? Is it just like, I just got to ride the wave? Or like, how do you know that an email's clean?
You just got to ride the wave. Do you know that's what the service provider will actually help you? They will help you to say that these are the bounced emails, or this email was rejected, or this email was undeliverable. So there's tags you can do in the email service provider that you could start cleaning it out. So that's not a problem. Um, and so yeah, so I mean, it's great to have your mother on the list, but you're gonna have to start paying for that. You can have everybody in your family on your list, so you can have a bigger email list. But the problem is are they really going to use your services? I don't. I don't want to
Right.
pay for my dog's email on my list because you're going to have to pay for that after a while, right? So then it's
Right.
better to curate and go through your list, not like every day or every week, but once in a while, maybe once a month, maybe once every, I don't know, once a quarter or whatever, once a year, depending on how big the list is. I mean, if you get to be like 100,000 people on your list, then I wouldn't care as much. But for right now, as you're going through, because you're still trying to find your ICA, you're trying to find your ideal client, you want to be able to keep that touch point, until you get more comfortable on where your direction is with your tutoring.
Mhm. And that's perfect because I have a friend of mine whose mother unsubscribed him because he
Yeah.
was sending way too many emails. And he was like, my mom unsubscribed me. I'm like, yeah, I would have too. Doesn't matter we gave birth to you, yes or no. So if you agitate us, we're gonna cut you off. Um, so we got a good idea with like the whole leak magnet. We don't want to overwhelm because I think this is like a great amount of information. So we
Yeah.
talked about the domain names. We gave you a couple suggestions. Namecheap is one that I go to, but again, if you want to do your research and looking at some other ones, Cloudflare was another one that was mentioned today. And then also looking at the service providers. And I know a lot of other platforms says you have to do emails, you have to collect emails, and you're just like, I don't know why. But we actually
Hmm.
talked about why. And it also gave an example when Facebook went down, and if I needed to contact you guys, I could still contact you through the email. So it's
Hmm.
not so much like I don't want to send people so much emails because I know there's people, big name people, when they have like a big event coming, it's just like, Grant Cardone, can you
Oh yeah.
please ease up on the emails? Like I
Yeah.
just deleted one literally 10 minutes ago, and your
Yeah.
event is 2 weeks away. And it's like, every hour it's always a thing. And
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
But it's also nice to have that because when it's time for you to say, hey, I got some more, spaces, you can go to your email list and actually just mention, like, hey guys, how are you doing? Just want to let you
Mm-hmm.
know that we still got some spaces. You know, we're going to be doing this. I noticed a lot of kids are doing X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
So I can, if you notice that your child's doing that, I can help you with that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's no longer you have to be stuck, say, with Facebook. Like once you get
Mm-hmm.
that email, that kind of eases and opens up the whole possibility. If you
Mm-hmm.
send it and a couple people unsubscribe, guess what? That's fine. But a lot of people you still have on that email list. So we talked about that a little bit with landing page. Landing pages kind of like just give a place for people to go, hence land. That's where they're going to
Yeah.
go. And then what's going to attract them is going to be your lead magnet. So, I mean, we're thinking about like possibly like a little bit of a homework. Like, what do you think people should think about right here, right now, after we displayed all this, Lynette?
The first thing would be to get a domain name. And domain is kind of like a website. Nitsa was asking, is a domain the same as a website? Kinda. Domain is the name that calls you. Does that make sense? A website is a location where you're going to send people to go to. I hope that makes sense. Um, so
So
what?
it's
So I
like
think, yeah,
your domain is like your name. Like, what do
yeah,
you want? Like, just like what Lynette's saying, like, where do you want people to call you? So now
yeah,
on the virtual way, how do you want people virtually from all over to call you, to know you? So they'll
right,
know, like learning by Lynette, they know ACG math tutoring. I know my name is
right,
Audrey Codner, but in the math tutoring world, I'm ACG math tutoring. So
right.
that will kind of be like your domain name. Whereas the website is almost like your brick and
Your
mortar,
house.
but it's
Yeah, your
virtually.
house.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like,
Yeah.
this is what's in my house. Look at all my lovely display.
Yeah.
Okay, come
Yeah.
on in. Would you like some tea? Let me provide some services. I'm really good at da 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 da. Would you
Yeah.
like some? Yeah, awesome. So that's
Yeah.
almost like you're welcoming them into like your home and your
Like a
breakdown.
business card. Is that right?
Yes. Yep.
Maybe like a business card that would be like your email. Sorry, website. So I think if possible, it'd be get a domain name because you don't want somebody to find. Once you find your domain name, just purchase it. Because the problem is there are people that will troll. I don't know how they figure it out, but once there's a flag to say this domain sounds really cool and somebody's looking for it, there will be a troll to like pick it up. So if you find it, pick it up. That's it. Just pick it up. And then the next one would be to go find a service provider. And then from there we can talk about like if you go with the three those I mean yeah I mean there's a bunch of others but those are the ones that like are at the top of my mind. And you know, if anything, we can walk through how to connect your domain name to the service provider. That could be a thing,
Mhm.
right? We could do
That'll
like a
definitely
little
be a thing.
breakout. Yeah. And then there's a few others that came across my way that we could also look at as well. But we could do that as a separate like thing, you know, how to hook up your domain name with your email service provider and then create a landing page so then you can start collecting. But that can be, you know, later on. So I think it'd
Right.
be domain name, service provider. Pick one, doesn't matter.
Exactly. And maybe even what would your lead magnet be? Just to
Oh,
play
yeah.
around with that in your head.
Yeah,
So
cuz
if you can get
sometimes
those three things, I think that would be good to help you with the next step while you're still telling people what you're doing.
yeah.
Okay. So don't just say, okay, so now I got to stop. And no, you still tell people what you're doing because there's always some behind the scenes. Like there's always like, don't look behind the curtain because it's a mess back there, you know? And that's one of the things that's a mess. A lot of people don't see. Let me write down, sit down, have a cup of
Yeah.
coffee, whatever, and just write down some possible names that you think for your domain. What sounds like it? And if you want to post it in the group, say, hey guys, these are a couple names that I thought of. What do you think? If you want to brainstorm it, you can. But no matter what, it's going to be your name. So it's going
Mhm.
to be whatever you're going to feel very confident with. And like Lynette said, keep it short, keep it simple, and not too cutesy. Right.
What do we use for a landing page? You can use the email service provider. That's why it would be the first thing that I would recommend for you to, instead of going to a website finding hosting, because you can go to a host service provider, but then it gets more cumbersome. That's why I recommend get a domain name, find an email service provider, start collecting email addresses, because the email service provider will give has a feature for you to have a landing page, right? It's all
Yep.
in one and it's just right there. And then when you get more comfortable with it, is what it is, right? You just need to be more comfortable with it, right? Then we could start talking about finding a web hosting, finding a place to put your like more information of like what you want to do. And then you could start bringing in all the other stuff. But for right now, email, domain name, email service provider, and some sort of lead magnet, because we all need to marinate on what we're going to do, but don't get stuck. Do a one page something, get something out there. You can always come back and you can always make it better. I can do something better, right?
Yep. It's never one and done. Well,
It's never.
let's wrap up. This is
Yeah.
awesome. This is great because we will stay here. Like Lynette and I will definitely talk for hours.
Oh,
But this, you have something else before I wrap up?
no,
Go
no.
ahead, say
I
it.
gotta, no, no. We just gotta, because it's gonna be ongoing, right?
Okay.
So,
Okay. So we'll save that because we don't
yeah,
want to overwhelm. We don't really want
yep.
to overwhelm. But here's my thing. You have me. I'm going to share in the group like Lynette. Actually, I'm going to bring Lynette into the group because I don't know why I haven't done that yet because I don't know. So
Yeah.
you can ask any questions. Like I'm slowly but surely, because you know me, I always think other things for other people that I'm trying to convince Lynette to be almost like a website consultant because she knows a lot of stuff and knows how to break it down. Yes, you do. You do. But you know how to break it down. Prime example, what we just did here. Because I know a lot of us did not know about the domain names, don't know how to connect the domain names, didn't really know a lot about other things. So, but if you do have questions, I'm going to bring her into the group and after we're done here.
Hmm.
And if you guys have any kind of questions, again, put it inside the group. And I think that'll be it. So we will see you guys next time. We're going to see if you want this to happen twice a month or if you want to happen
Hmm.
once a month. So I'm going to be putting a poll out there in a few as well, just so I can give an idea, make sure that I'm giving you what you need. Like I want to make sure I'm providing all the services that you can, in addition to whenever you guys want to talk to me, right? So have a good one, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.